I'm very happy to be here and share in this evening and give a few thoughts. We're approaching this from a very different perspective, but a very complementary one to the book. The book is an outstanding contribution that really provides an incredibly important sort of foundation of studies done by a combination of scholars from the region and colleagues from abroad, but it does one of the critical things which we've discovered must be done if you're going to look at youth issues from a perspective of both the young people themselves and the policy challenges, which is to look at them, as the author, the editor said in their introduction, to look at them through interdependent transitions, but also through the interconnectedness among aspects of young people's lives. And this is really the critical challenge for us today. We are working at the Navtej Institute at AUB on a major long-term youth program that we identified as almost at the same time as the Middle East Youth Initiative and Brookings and DSG were looking at their priorities, and we came to the same conclusion independently that youth have to be studied much more seriously. And with much more rigor, honesty, and interconnected courage. Because a lot of the issues related to youth are sensitive. And sensitive issues in the Arab world are not always welcomed in the public discussion. But they have to be discussed because the consequences are quite serious. So we discovered, as we launched our program, that the single most important priority for us as researchers, we have about 30 professors at AUB working on youth-related issues, and we're trying to set up a network of researchers of around, we have about 70 or 80 now, and we're identifying all of the researchers we can in this region who are working seriously on youth. But we discovered that the single most important thing in the short run, we think, is to bring into the public discussion all of those issues and sentiments that youth themselves are engaged in the private realm. Because what's happened, and the reason that youth are important, we believe, is not only for the reasons that are mentioned in the book, in terms of A, their rights as human beings, their rights as citizens of their countries, and their potential as economic productive actors and forces of stability and creativity and production. But they're important because they are the best barometer. Young people are the best barometer of all of the challenges facing a society. And if you study young people in any depth, in any serious and honest way, you discover very quickly that young people encapsulate more clearly, I think, than any other sector in society, certainly more than scholars and journalists that we are, youth encapsulate the real pressing challenges, and they articulate them, they speak about them, but most of this speaking is done in the private realm. And the issues that young people express, the grievances that they talk about, are a very accurate barometer of the challenges facing all of society. So I think that today, because youth are the sector that is most hurt by the economic crisis that we're facing, and they have the least input into policies affecting their lives, and they are the most constrained by the constraining factors of government, of security agencies, of family constraints, of traditional social constraints, of economic opportunities, limits to travel. They have the most constraints on them. And therefore, they feel the most vulnerable and the most stuck. And while they're in this moment of waithood, they're waiting, but they're not waiting silently. And what youth are doing are creating parallel worlds. They're creating spaces in which they operate in society. Some of it is virtual on the web, some of it is in society in their physical spaces, in their communities, in their mall, in the mosque, in the neighborhood, in the schoolyard, walking in the street. They're not silently dealing with their pressures, but they're talking about it, they're expressing themselves. And I think the greatest source of untapped ideas are the voices of young people that they're already expressing. We don't hear them because they're not expressed in public. But what they're telling us is that our societies are facing crises. They're facing crises, and our societies are facing crises of values, of good governance, of equity, social and economic equity, of the stresses of polarization, of identity, of aspects of legitimacy in certain parts of their societies, of sustainable material development, of the larger challenge of stable and secure statehood, and in the relations between Arab youth and non-Arab youth, whether it's Iran or Israel or Turkey or Europe or America or Japan. In all of these areas, youth provide, I think, the most accurate, the most comprehensive, and the most clear expression of what the problems are. I suspect, and this is what our research is trying to find, I suspect that they can also help us find the solutions. Those policy solutions that Brookings and DSG and others and all of us want to work on can be richly influenced by the young people themselves. And I think this is our next challenge, is to find the policies proposals and to get young people to help us define those policy proposals, to help us find the solutions. And they're already doing it, so it's not a question of creating opportunities for them, it's a question of simply listening to them and understanding what they're already saying.